That is suddenly my new litmus test on technology. Is what I'm doing going to pull me farther away from the community that I am here to serve?
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to just throw your phone away and go live in a monastery or with the Amish for a little bit? I bet you have. Okay, maybe not specifically, but similar, right? What would happen if you shut it all down and just changed your life temporarily? What would that be like? Well, my friend Carlos did just that, and he has a story and some amazing insights to share us. This is going to be so fun. Without further ado, here's my friend Carlos. Carlos, for so many years, when I thought about who is the person who just owns social media and is on social media all the time, like this guy, his stories are out of control. Everything's going viral. He lives on his phone. It was Carlos Whittaker.
Absolutely.
But then you told me a few months ago, hey, by the way, I forget how you said it, but basically, like, I left my phone at home and I went and lived at a monastery. And I was like, I can't wait to hear this story. What led up to this?
And here we are. Yes. What led up to this? First, I would need to let everybody that is listening to this know, Alli Worthington is the very first human being that is able to ask me any of these questions. You're like the first podcast I'm talking about this on. So every question is going to be, the answers are like legit coming from my soul. What led to this was at the beginning of 2022, just like you said, Carlos Whittaker was always on his phone, always sharing stories, always doing things. And you know, Sundays you get that screen time notification, right? That comes across your phone that 99% of people just kind of swipe away because we don't want to look. But what I did one Sunday at the beginning of 22 was I clicked on it and I was like, let me actually look. And it said I was on my phone. I think it was like 7 hours and 23 minutes a day. And I was like, that feels like a lot, but I threw in the but right away. Yeah. This is my job. I do things on Instagram. I upload videos. Like it's okay, right? But CPAs are on their laptops 7 hours a day. Why can't I be on my phone? Right. So like I started making all the excuses and then I almost swiped it. I almost closed it, but I was like, let me just do the math. So I did the math, and the math is what led me to this, to do what I did. The math was I was spending approximately 49 hours a week. So that's like 2 entire cycles of the sun, not work days a week, but like human sleep and wake up and live days a week. So 48 hours a week, which ended up being 8 days a month, which ended up being about 100 days a year. And then I did the math, one more equation, because I love math. Just kidding. But I pushed it all the way out and I said, if I live to be 70 something odd years old, I will spend over 8 years of my life looking at my screen. And that is when I said, and I actually was releasing a book called How to Human at the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, talk about the worst guy to write a book called How to Human. And then so I just emailed my agent and I said, hey, I think I'm going to do something drastic. The first idea was just to spend 2 weeks disconnected from social media. That was the beginning, was I'm just going to disconnect from social media. And he kind of pushed back a little bit and said, I feel like a lot of people are doing that. You know, I mean, what if you just kind of took a little farther? So then I went to my wife, which was the worst idea, because my wife was like, no, let me tell you what's going to happen. You are going to not look at a screen for 2 months, like a single screen. I was like, babe, I can't do that. That's how I make my living. That's how I do, you know. She's like, let's see what happens. Can you do it? So that's what led on the journey to 7 weeks. And I never consumed any content from a screen. And that's how I got there.
Okay. And what did you do during the 7 weeks to keep you from losing your mind?
How the experiment went, and I say an experiment, it was like just my own experiment, right? It's not like a medical study or anything like that. I was the only data point. But I went and I flew to LA and I got my brain scanned by Dr. Daniel Amen because I wanted to see what my brain looked like before. Okay. So he scanned my brain at 7 hours a day on my phone. Then my best friend Brian drove me from there 2 hours north to the high desert of Southern California.
Okay,
and dropped me off.
Hold on. I need to know we got to start with this brain scan now, because I'm jealous that you got your brain scanned. I would love to do that. What did it tell you? I want all the details.
So the cool thing is Dr. Amen agreed to scan my brain before and after. So I actually got 2 brain scans to see the difference of what 7 weeks of not looking at a screen would do. I mean, here's super like raw. Like my father has dementia, and like I was actually just petrified that he was going to scan my brain and be like, bro, you got 10 years, and then things are going to start falling off track. But so there was a lot of fear inside of me. The initial brain scan was definitely, he's like, yo, bro, you got lumps everywhere. You got a dent right here. You got this part of your brain's not firing. He's like, I don't know if it's 7 hours a day on your phone, or I don't know if it's what you're eating. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely things that we can fix. So, yes.
So then your best friend, Brian.
So then he drives me to monastery in the high desert of Southern California. Literally, homeboy pulls up to this monastery, pulls my bags out of his car, takes my phone, my laptop, my iPad, my everything, and says, yo, you're going to do great, and drives off and just leaves me there, right? So here I am stranded, and that's definitely felt stranded at this monastery with 20 Benedictine monks called St. Andrew's Abbey. And I lived in a little
Did they know
hermitage.
you were coming? Like, do you have to ask permission to get dropped off?
They did.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Definitely did a little. Did a little work beforehand, and they actually invited me. My wife, her father, who passed away when she was like in her 17, used to be like a high level volunteer at this monastery, and so they knew him. Heather kind of grew up there, and so some of the older monks knew Heather when she was a little girl. So she reached out and they were like, absolutely, which was actually a big deal because they don't let people just come and live for a few weeks. And so I did it. I moved into this little hermitage at the top of the hill. And Alli, I need to tell you that the first 48 hours, I had nothing, right? I had no screens. It was the most miserable, panic attack induced, night sweats, heart palpitations. Yeah. Like my body was legitimately coming off the drug of information. And it was horrible. You could read all about the horrors in the book. But day 3, it was day 3. I'll never forget. I woke up after a horrible night of sleep and just tossing and turning and like praying and crying and like, God, I'm going to go home. I almost went home. And that third morning, it felt like legitimately an elephant stepped off of my chest. And suddenly I started walking at the pace that these monks walked. I call it Godspeed in the book, 3 miles an hour, the pace that we were actually created to move. I was praying 6 times a day with them from 6 a.m. and then 9 a.m. and then noon and then 4 p.m., then 6 p.m., then 8. And it just was, I was singing with them. I was chanting with them. I was walking. It was 23 hours a day of silence. I would have these conversations, and suddenly the voice of God exploded. I mean, it was life shifting. And so, that was kind of the beginning of those 14 days there. I lived there for 14 days, and then Heather picked me up, and then I flew to Cleveland, Ohio, and I moved into an Amish community for 14 days on an Amish sheep farm. And then I lived after 2 weeks there with my family back in Nashville for 3 weeks without screens because I wanted to see if I could actually do this in my real life.
Wow.
Then I went back and got my brain rescanned. Okay, questions.
Okay. What was life like with the Amish?
So moving from the monastery where it was 23 hours a day of silence for me, not because that's necessarily the rule for them. Monks were busy doing monk stuff. And I didn't have, I just was by myself.
Hold on now. What's monk stuff?
Monk stuff, is, some of them, they all have jobs around the abbey, around the property. Some of them work in the ceramics. They make ceramics and they sell them there. Some of them work in the bookstore. Some of them they work down at the seminary in Los Angeles, at the Catholic seminary down there. So sometimes they drive down there to do it, and they have a vow. They will live there all their days and they will die there and they will be buried there. And so this is their brotherhood. This is, their community. So, and they pray a lot. They pray a lot, and they had to deal with me every single day. Is another one of their jobs that they did not know they were going to have to deal with Carlos's nervous breakdowns. I feel bad for the monks because the monks got me at the beginning of this experiment. The Amish got me after that. I'd already gotten all of this stuff out of me.
No more night sweats. You're good by the time you get to the Amish farm.
And actually, by the time Heather picked me up, listen, I love my wife, I love my family, I love my kids, but I was like, babe, I get it. I get why these homeboys would want to hang out. This is good. This is the good stuff. The purpose, literally the purpose, every single thing that the monk does is so filled with purpose, that I just was like, I feel like I'm so much busier than the monks, but I just didn't feel like I had purpose until I left there, and I could see that. So monk time was really quiet. Amish, when I got to the Amish, I didn't know what to expect, right? Like I've only, seen reality shows about the Amish. Like I didn't know, and they invited me all the way in.
Yeah.
It was like moving from a cave to downtown Manhattan. Like the Amish go hard. They do not I was exhausted. I was up at 5 a.m. Willis was my sheep farming trainer. He was my boss for the 2 weeks. He's become one of my closest friends. Willis Miller, the sheep farmer. And I lived on his farm, wake up in the morning, 5 a.m., go out, check on the hay. Is the grass too wet to cut? If not, we're going to do something else. We'll go shear the sheep. So, then we go to the auction, and then they're always visiting with each other, and then they're always kind of going, conversations, long dinners, long conversations. I remember the first night after hanging out with the Amish all day, I laid my head down and I was like, I am exhausted from talking. Like they just talk so much. It was amazing. And I ended up living for 2 weeks with the Amish and learning so much about the way they view technology and the reasons why they have a lack of technology, quote unquote, comparatively speaking to how we live, and why that is good and what things can I bring back to my life. And so, the Amish were incredible, and they, let this tattooed black guy into their community for 2 weeks and let me all in. Like they, I love them and they love me, and it was an incredible time.
So my guess is it would be amazing to be back with your family, but then stressful and almost a little sad to let go of the experiences you've had. Tell me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah. No, you're right. By the time I left the Amish, so now I'm a month in, right? So I'm 4 weeks in. I did see my family in the middle between the monks and the Amish. So I spent 2 days in LA with my family, which was awesome. What was harder to leave was the simplicity of knowing there weren't screens around me, that I wasn't going to be tempted, that by that point, I didn't even want to look at a screen.
Yeah.
After 3 days, this wasn't an experiment about a phone. Like I'd forgotten about my phone by 3 days in. So like, it wasn't like, oh, screen. No, it just was, I was just now living. I was connected with other humans. I was having community in ways that I had not had in a long time. And so there was a fear of, oh my gosh, like I'm going back into my real world. I won't say the real world, because the Amish are in their real world, but my real world. And there's going to be, my kids aren't going to be off their phones. My wife's not going to be off their phones. We're not going to take the TV off the wall. So there was a little bit of hesitation and a little bit of fear of like, how am I going to do this around my family? And so, but I'll tell you this, I was ready to be with my wife. I was like, God did not make me to be a monk. I'm ready to be with my wife, and I'm ready to see my family. And, my kids at this point, they were still all living at home, but I think at this point they were 20, 18. Like I knew that time was short. Like this was a big sacrifice for me to be away from them. And I ended up coming home, and then we ended up deciding to take a trip to Yellowstone. So that was actually super helpful for me to just kind of not be at home. So we were at Yellowstone for a week, kind of doing the road trip thing. They were still on their phones. They were still Instagramming, doing all the things. I just was talking to them way more than they were comfortable with me talking to them. And then we spent 2 weeks at home until I flew back to LA and got my brain rescan.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Before we talk about the brain rescan, which I want to hear all about that, what surprised you the most during this month away?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the volume of how loud my life was. And the fact that when I lowered the volume of my life, how I feel like the volume of everything else that is supposed to be loud in our life, I could finally hear. And how I think I was surprised at how muted our hearing and our senses get with screens. Like I'm telling you, like the things that I would notice, I have a whole chapter on noticing the things that I noticed around me because I didn't have not only screens in my hand, but Alli, like I spent 7 weeks, I never got a single notification. Nothing buzzed on my body to distract me from the person that was right in front of me. One of the biggest things that I realized was just how we don't notice things anymore. We literally don't. There was I don't know if I talk about this in the book or not, but I was walking from the library back up to my cabin. This was like day 6. And, when you don't have a phone, you're just kind of looking around. And I noticed like, it looked like a cicada. You're in Nashville, so you understand the terror of and I was like, are there cicadas in the high desert of Southern California? So I walked really far away from it, but then I looked a little closer and I was like, wait, that's not a cicada. And it was a baby hummingbird that had fallen from a tree, and it was in the parking lot. And I was like, oh my gosh. So if anyone knows anything about me, like I love birds. So I go running up to this thing and it hops on my little finger. This thing's legitimately just the tip of my pointer finger, and it hops up there. And I look up and I'm like, I can't get it back up there. So I spent the next 2 days. This was like my Netflix. I am feeding this hummingbird. I am checking on this hummingbird. I am trying with everything to keep it alive, but I don't see its mom. And finally, 2 days later, I see a hummingbird come down from the tree and it starts feeding it. And I was like, it's going to be safe. But I have this incredible 48 hours of my life with this hummingbird that I promise you never would have happened because I would have been looking at my phone while I was walking from one place to the other. So I think noticing was a huge thing that surprised me how little we notice now because we've got these devices always in our hands. I would go as far as saying that it's even not that a phone is in front of us all the time. It's that our brains are too full all the time to notice. So our minds aren't in front of us. Our minds aren't in the moment. And when our minds aren't in the moment because we're thinking about something that we've seen or an email that we've gotten or all the things, then we can't, even if the phone is in front of us, we can't notice the things that are right in front of us. Like, even employees, like this book, I'm going to be taking it into the corporate space. And I just think that there is so much good that can come from even companies and even, CEOs and leaders that are leading organizations to be like, hey, listen, these are things that you're going to be able to do better when you reconnect,
100%. Okay, let's talk about your brain. What happened to your brain?
So Dr. Amen said that my cerebellum had healed the most. It had the most healing, which is the largest part of your brain. And, so he's sitting there and he's such a whimsical, witty, guy. And so he's like, Carlos, the cerebellum, we call that the Rodney Dangerfield part of the brain because it gets no respect, So he points out and then he shows how it's firing in ways that it wasn't firing before. And then he shows a couple of the lumps on my brain had smoothed out. So he started showing that my brain had definitely healed. Now, knowing that this wasn't a medical study, right? I was the one data point, like it was just me, it wasn't 100 people. We both realized who knows if it was not looking at my phone for 7 weeks. Who knows if it was being silent with the monks 23 hours a day? Who knows if it was working in the fields, shearing sheep with Farmer Willis every day? Or I believe it was a combination of everything, and definitely my brain healed when it was over. But here's the thing, Alli, before I walked into his office, I knew that I was better. Like I could feel it. Like I knew that things had healed. Thank God that he was like, yep, your brain is better. So that's pretty cool. And again, all of this information is in the book. I go into way more detail into the cerebellum and all the things as well, all the fancy science words that my editors helped me with.
I think your story is so important because more and more people are realizing the damage of the constant dopamine hits of social media, especially that they're causing. It's our attention, our happiness. I think I wrote back in 2016 in Breaking Busy, I mentioned early research that the longer people spend, right then they were just talking about Facebook because those were the only studies that were done back then. Sure. The longer time people spent on it, the worse they felt. And people are now picking up on it. So my husband and I are talking about it, what a massive bummer this is to just give unfettered internet access to people when all of this stuff has been completely designed to get us hooked and addicted. It's why, I don't have TikTok on my phone because I know the algorithm is so good that I wouldn't be able to say no to it. I've gotten my Instagram use down to 20 minutes a week. But Twitter, I know we're supposed to call it X now. Twitter and Reddit, that's where it gets all my time because I still am obsessed with learning things.
Sure.
But I know it's too addictive to just go through that scroll with your thumb and get hit with happy videos and baby hummingbirds and, all of those things without the work. So how has it changed the way you use social?
Yeah. First of all, whoever gave those phones to that tribe needs to go to prison.
For real. Right?
You literally just ruined a whole community of people. Okay, so I'm just triggered by that. The Amish really helped me because the Amish, They use technology. So here's the thing. The Amish, you think, oh, the Amish don't have phones. The Amish don't have lights. That's actually not true. Some of the Amish have flip phones, and their church allows them to have flip phones if they're running a business. Now the church votes on what the next piece of technology is, with the sole purpose of, if there's any technology that is going to remove them from community, if there's any technology that's going to make them be farther away from community, then they will say no. So as we continue to evolve in our technology use, so do the Amish, right? And so when I realized that, Willis told me once, well, Carlos, the reason we don't have cars isn't because we don't think cars, or that we think cars are evil. The reason we don't use cars is because if Farmer John down the street, if his barn burns down, and we're all in Cleveland and all these other places, we're too far away from each other to be able to come back and to build his barn back up within 2 days. So cars would pull us farther away from where we need to be in community and to serve each other. When he told me that, my mind was blown. And so suddenly, Alli, that is suddenly my new litmus test on technology. Is what I'm doing going to pull me farther away from the community that I am here to serve? What has that done? My wife and I. Now, my wife she's never brought the phone to bed. She reads books. I do. I'm watching YouTube. I watch all these things. Now, little things I've done, like I plug in my phone in the kitchen, and there's studies that show that the studies in my book, but that the last 30 minutes we go to sleep, and before we go to sleep, and the first 30 minutes we wake up, we consume more content than like my great grandparents would consume in a month.
Wow.
And because we're just on our phones in the beginning, at the end. So now what I've done, I bought an alarm clock. You can go to Amazon and buy one of those things. It's the craziest thing in the world.
An alarm
All
clock?
it does is it just wakes you up. So it's so cool. I wake up, I don't scroll, I don't have notifications, I don't, and I wake up, I go make my coffee. And so I spend the first hour of my day, I don't ever even pick up my phone because it's not my alarm clock. It's not there. So things like that, like other things that, I do differently now. My book is not about like why phones are bad and why you need to be off your phone. What my book does is it reminds you of the beauty that's on the other side of the phone. And once you see the beauty of those things and you do those things more, you will literally get addicted to those things and you'll be on your phone less. So
Love it.
For instance, when I order coffee, I never order it to go. I always order it in a ceramic mug, and I always drink my coffee right there. Even if nobody knows this, but Starbucks actually has ceramic mugs in all their locations. You can ask them to put your coffee in a ceramic mug. And then if you don't have 3 minutes to sit and savor your coffee, then you're going too fast. Yeah. And so there's some little things like that I give out in the book that can really help people begin to savor these incredible moments in life that maybe social media and all the things have ruined for us. My screen time has gone from 7 hours a day to 3 hours a day. So I'm still on my phone 3 hours a day. Like that's still, but that is the least amount I've been able to pull it down to continue to do what it is that I do. I ask my wife all the time, hey babe, like, do you think that maybe one day I'll just kind of stop sharing my life on my phone and I'll just be able to just live and not have everyone know about it? Because when I did that for those 7 weeks, it was awesome. Alli, not one single Amish person knew who I was. They didn't care. They didn't care about anything. They cared about me when they got to know me. And there was just something so refreshing about that. It was like I was living in 1971 all over again. It was the craziest thing.
It makes me think of a story you told me. I think you told me this story in 2011.
Okay.
So 13 years ago. It was about you and John Acuff.
Yep.
And I'm probably getting the facts wrong, but I'm getting the important part right so you can fix it. You guys maybe were on a run together and something happened and you wanted to share it. And John said, but if you share it, it won't just be a special, like a thing. What's that story?
Yeah, no. I can't remember if it was a runner. 13 years ago.
I just remember the, like, if you share it, it won't be as special.
Well, yeah. When you share something, suddenly it's not yours anymore. It wouldn't be mine and John's anymore.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're inviting everybody else in. The fact that I wasn't able to share a single thing for 7 weeks, actually for almost 2 years, because that's when, how long it's been since I did this. It's been actually so healing for me to realize, you know what? I don't have to share. This is an awesome thing that happened. Can I tell you, if I would have found that hummingbird and I had my phone, there would have been music behind the hummingbird. There would have been I would have been sharing it on real time, looking at how many people are watching it. And then oh my God, let me make it a reel. And then let me see if I can share it. Now I got to do no,
front page of Reddit.
I just enjoyed Ruthie. I named the hummingbird Ruthie, the hummingbird. And it was just a moment for me and Ruthie. It was very healing. So things have shifted. A lot of things have changed. I'm not off my phone completely. I do tell people that I do feel like it is healthy to do more than just delete social media.
Yeah, true.
I think that is not near enough. I think that's a good starting point. But I think if you can get to where you spend, and I promise you, you can do it. But if you spend an entire day while the sun is up and you pick a day, make it a Saturday or Sunday, and you do not look at a single screen, you do not consume content from anything else other than the human beings and the world that is around you, it's going to feel night and day compared to when you delete social media. You're going to feel more alive than you felt in a long time. But Carlos, my kids, Life 360, hey, guess what? Maybe we weren't created to know where our kids are 24/7.
Our parents didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know. And so suddenly, what has that done? That's added an extra layer of worry that we were never even created to have.
Yeah.
And so shut it off, all your screens for a day, and then maybe in a couple months do 2. And then the challenge that I'm going to give people is to try to do 6 screen-free days a year. And I feel like if you do it every other month, just for an entire day, you don't look at a screen, I think it's going, what that's going to do is it's going to, I think, propel people into way more than 6 days. And it'll give us peace like we never thought we'd have before.
I think it's a great idea because for me, I love the internet. I built a company because of the internet. I think the internet's amazing, but we need to be intentional. We need to put some boundaries on ourselves with it because, just look at the poor Amazon tribe. Here you go.
The poor Amazon
phones
tribe.
And internet, because without being intentional and without some guardrails on ourselves going, this is how I'm going to use it. This is not how I'm going to use it. We see what happens to a people group when they get it. And all of a sudden they're like, real life isn't as interesting as this dopamine hit that I'm getting in my hand. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And being bored, we're the first generation legitimately to not have access to solitude. Solitude used to be a normal thing. We don't have it anymore. And so these are all the things that I think we were created as humans to have, that when you have those screen-free days, you're going to get again.
Totally. That's amazing. Okay. The book is fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Last fun question, then I'm going to have you tell us why we need to get it. But the fun question for you is, give me a product that you love, that you told somebody else they need to have.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me think. A product that I love that somebody else needs to have. Okay. So this is going so niche. Okay. Like this is I'm a massive pickleball player. I love pickleball. I'm addicted to pickleball. If you like to play any sports, this is really good. It's called the Swing Vision stick. It's called a swing stick, and you hook your phone up to it, and then there's an app called Swing Vision that will record your pickleball games, and then you hook it up above the fence, it hooks onto the fence, and legitimately this thing, I use it every day because I'm a pickleball player, but it tracks all your shots with AI. It tracks how fast your shots are, if they're in or out. It tells you on your watch. Listen, I'm the anti-phone guy, and I'm telling you the most AI thing that I've ever gotten. But it keeps track of all your games. It keeps the score. It tells you if a ball is in or out. It is mind blowing. It's called Swing Vision and the Swing Stick. So if you're a tennis player or a pickleball player, pick one up. There you go.
Hey, you're not anti-phone. You're phone with intentionality.
Not. That's right. You got it.
That's using tech well. Okay.
Yep.
Tell us more about the book and why we need it.
Yeah. When I finished, I went into it thinking it was a book about phones.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought the experiment was. And quickly I realized it was more about a book about connection. And when I got back, everyone was like, how was it being disconnected? How was it being disconnected? And every time they would say that, I was like, it just didn't feel right. And suddenly I realized, wait a second, I didn't disconnect, I reconnected. And the reason why I think everybody needs this book is because every single person, I believe, right now is disconnected in some way, shape, or form because of the way we use screens. And I feel like this is going to help people not disconnect, because I feel like it's everyone think that that's the purpose. The purpose isn't disconnection. I believe that you're going to reconnect with the beauty of humanity. The subtitle is How 7 Screen-Free Weeks with Monks and Amish Farmers Help Me Recover the Lost Art of Being Human. And I think that people are going to be like, oh, this is how we were created to live. It's going to be an exhale. It's going to be an exhale that you didn't think you needed.
And remind us again the title.
Reconnected.
Reconnected. Okay.
How 7 Screen-Free Weeks with Monks and Amish Farmers Help Me Recover the Lost Art of Being Human.
That's great. Well, congratulations on the life experience, first of all, and the life change from it. And I'm so excited to see how it goes and it does in the world.
Thank you for having me. And thank you, Alli Worthington podcast listeners, for sticking through till the end.
How great was that, right? We do not have to give everything up, but there are a lot of lessons that we can get from Carlos. I, for one, am not packing my phone away and putting my life on hold, but getting smart about things. That is such a great key. Carlos is an amazing storyteller. We've been friends for a long time. I had so much fun with this one. I want to give away 4 copies of his new book, 4 copies. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube. Be sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you like it. Make sure that you leave a comment. If you are listening the old-fashioned way as an audio, is that old-fashioned now? Maybe. We'll call it old-fashioned. Take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram story, tag me and tag Carlos, and you'll be entered to win. And I'm so glad that you're here. I love that we have this time together every week, twice a week now, which is so crazy. I hope you're enjoying the twice a week format. It's a little bit different. It's a little more Alli in your week. Can you handle a little more Alli in your week? I hope so. I hope you're enjoying it. I love doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for working on you, because that's why you're here. I know about you because I know the women that are in this community. They are women who are going for what God has for them, who are leading well in their families, in their communities, or at work. You have dreams in your heart to build something, to do something great. God is leading you, and He has an impact for good for you to make in this world. That's why you're here, because God has created you to stand strong and do something special and unique in this world that only you can do. So I love that we get to have this time together twice as much now, and I love to get to coach and equip you every week. Keep stepping up, keep showing up, keep loving well, because you know the truth. You cannot break a woman who gets her strength from God. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days. Apparently, we failed to start recording last time. Let's record a podcast. Here we go. I don't know what to do with my hands. I never know how to start this. And I have to cough. Hold on just a second. It actually recorded.